Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Siobhán for anyone who's new, and in today's video I am finally reviewing my current favourite foundation. This has actually been my favourite for the last like 3 months or so, like since I actually, maybe I have had it for longer. I got this during the summer and I have been loving it ever since and loving it more and more every time I use it, and it is the No.7 AIRBRUSH Away foundation. It is based off of, you know, the Armani foundation, the one with the dropper. And there's loads of different types of these out. I have to say though, I have only tried the one from Isadora and the one from MAC besides this one, and I love all of them. They're just really, really lovely formula. They're really, really lovely formulated foundations, and they're right up my alley. So basically this is a light to medium buildable coverage foundation. It is silicone based, but it does contain oils and powders. So it's quite a unique foundation. I mean, a lot of these are quite similar anyhow, the way they're formulated, the ones with the dropper. So this, the main kind of claims on this is that it will give a soft focus effect, it'll blur pores, fine lines, it gives a beautifying effect to the skin, kind of like when you use a filter on like Instagram or whatever. And it's good for any skin type pretty much, but I'll go into that in a few minutes. Price wise, it's €22 here in Ireland. I think it's around £16 in the UK, and it is a 30ml bottle, even though it looks smaller than a lot of other, like for instance, put it beside the 30ml one by Rimmel and it looks a lot smaller, but it is the right size. It's just that I suppose it doesn't have as much faff as the bigger 30ml bottles. Like these have a lot of glass there at the bottom and maybe thicker glass around the side, and then the big chunky lid. So this is just a little bit more compact, but it's the exact same amount of product. And I love that it's compact, because this would be perfect for your kit if you are using it professionally, and it's just handy for carrying around. It is glass, but it's so light that I don't think it would maybe break quite as easily as some other glass bottles, because it just doesn't have that weight in it to do a huge amount of damage. There are 14 shades available in this range, so it's quite an extensive shade range as far as pharmacy brands go. I don't know if this is a pharmacy brand in the US. I know you do have some No.7 bits, but it is a pharmacy brand here, but it's a step above Rimmel and L'Oreal and all those, say. And No.7 now do this, I think it's called their Smart Match service or something like that, basically where they use this wee little contraption that reads the tone and shade of your skin. They do 3 readings and then they'll match you up. Now it's not foolproof. They've matched me up to before and it was wrong. It was too dark. So basically they matched me up to like one of the lightest, like the 3rd shade up or something like that. It was like one of the lightest yellow shades, because they were taking the reading from my face, and my face is darker than my neck and it can be quite sallow, but I matched my neck. And I had said this to her, but the lightest one is the only one that matches me, which is what I've on today. Now I have been wearing this for a few hours. I'll let you know how long I have it on for now at the end, and you'll see now a few minutes in the demo how I apply and all that kind of stuff. I did use this guide to apply because I realised my review of this last week, it wasn't as thorough as it should have been. I was, a lot of people pointed out that I was, you know, given a lot of the bad points. It wasn't that I was meaning to point out all the bad points, it was more so that it's such a unique and new novel kind of brush that I just wanted to let you know what to avoid to make it work, if that makes sense. So in the demo for this, like showing you how I use the AIRBRUSH Away foundation, I just show you how to use it properly. And I do like using this for that particular foundation. Okay, let's go quickly into the ingredients. So like I said, let me just bring up the ingredients for you. So like I said, it is a dimethicone, or like heavily based in silicone. So if you really don't like that silicone feel, you mightn't like it. Now it's not a thick silicone, it's more like a serum rather than like a thick silicone, if you know what I mean. It's a really, really fluid consistency. You can even see here when you pick it up, it is very drippy, and then as I leave that in the back of my hand, it will continue to run, but it has that lovely velvet feel to it because of the powders it contains. So it contains silicone quite heavily further up. It also contains isododecane, which is an emollient, but it's a thinner. It's a really lovely, it has a really lovely feel to it as well. It enhances kind of the slip, I suppose, of foundations. Silica and talc and another powder called Stair something or other, heck to it. There are 3 powders that it contains. So it does contain powders, and that's anything that really claims to have that soft focus blurring effect will usually contain powders. It also contains a couple of oils. So it contains tocopherol, I think is how it's pronounced. It's like a vitamin E oil, and there is that capric triglyceride, I think that's another oil as well. So these are very, very fine oils though. They're not heavy and thick like mineral oil. And the whole basis on these foundations is that these oils are meant to be so light that they almost evaporate from the skin once they're on, or at least that's what the Armani one said. And this does contain something called Berry Flux Vita, and this is their hydrating ingredient. Now it is far enough down in the actual ingredient list, it's not in the top half, but basically this is an antioxidant, a powerful antioxidant that is taken from, oh, what did they call it? It's taken from raspberry cells, I think. It's like from raspberry, whatever. It's a oil soluble extract, but it really enhances the hydration levels of your skin because, how do they put it? It increases hyaluronic acid content in the skin, which of course everyone knows is a really, really power humectant which attracts moisture to the skin or hydration to the skin. And it also says that it does other good stuff, but basically it's a powerful antioxidant. It's a good thing, and that is one of their like key ingredients in this. So even though it is lower enough down, it may be enough of a powerful ingredient to do quite good, because it feels like, in general, this feels very, very hydrating on the skin. And in general, I haven't always been the biggest fan of foundations that contain oils, because or powders rather. Being someone who can get dry, say on my forehead and stuff like that, I can sometimes find that it gets a little bit dry as the day goes on, and this doesn't happen with this. Obviously the oil and then that Berry Flux Vita probably helps with that. The reason I love this foundation though is that it just gives the most beautiful flawless finish. It evens out my skin without like giving a blanket coverage by any means. It is a lighter coverage. I can still see freckles and stuff through that. It gives the most beautiful luminosity without being over the top. So it's not matte, it's not like shiny or dewy, it's somewhere in between. So it has that radiance and that luminosity that I love, but it's still quite a satin or velvety finish. And it's just my favorite kind of foundation. I remember years ago I did a video called The Perfect Foundation, and it was on one of the old Vichy foundations, the whatever it's called now. It's been discontinued, and this is very similar in how it turns out. Now the ingredients and the actual formula were totally different, but at the end result was very similar, and it's just the kind of foundation that I love. So anyhow, without further ado, here is the demo on how I apply this foundation, and yeah, how it kind of covers and all that kind of stuff. And then I'm going to come back later on tonight after maybe about 8-9 hours wear, and I'll show you how it wears throughout the evening, and I'll let you know how long I've had it on for now, because you can see it's a little bit shiny in certain areas, but it's still held up really well. Maybe a tiny bit around the chin, it's starting to come off. Okay, so for the purpose of this review, I'm going to apply it without any primer, just so you can see how it lasts on the skin as is. I always give this bottle a really good shake, which is what is recommended as well by No.7. And then to pick up some product, because it's a dropper lid, you need to expel the air when it's closed. That's what they say to do. Then just open your lid, and there should be a good bit of product up there. Like maybe 3 drops is what I would go for. So that's more than enough. And I am the colour Calico. I'm sure I've said that a million times before. It's the lightest colour. It might not be light enough for the most fair of people out there, like the NW10s. It has a little bit of depth to it, and it's neutral rather than pink or yellow, to be honest. All of No.7's colours are neutral, which is why I like them. They're not very yellow or very pink or anything like that. And obviously for the purpose of this video as well, I'm going to use this Oh Wow brush, because in my review of it the last day, I just realised I didn't really give a reason as to why it is a nice brush when used properly. So I'm just going to show you how I use it. So I pick up some of the product. Again, you don't need much, and then I just lightly start to buff that over the skin. And I'll link to the review on this brush here, so you can learn a little bit more about it if you have no idea what it is. I'm just going to do one half of the face as usual in these reviews, so you can see how it looks compared to the other side. because this foundation isn't a film forming foundation and you know it doesn't dry in or anything like that, I don't have to worry about just doing one little area and then working around. I can literally like plonk it on wherever I want. So you don't have to be particularly careful about where you apply it, or about how quick you work with it rather. Okay, so you can probably see there, this half obviously has been really evened out. It doesn't necessarily do heavy coverage of blemishes with this guy shown through. It is definitely a light to medium buildable coverage. And you can see there, because I'm going so lightly with the brush, it goes on really evenly. It just gives a really lovely flawless base. It's a satin finish, definitely more of a satin finish rather than particularly dewy or particularly matte, which would be a mixture of the oils and the powders in it. So that's kind of why you get the best of both worlds there. And then with this foundation, you can definitely build it up to be slightly heavier coverage, but again, you need to do it in light layers. And as I mentioned in the review for this brush, I tend to just kind of tap over my nose just because of the angles around the tip of my nose and on the bridge. So there you go, that's the foundation on without any other concealer or anything else on. You can see that it's not particularly shiny or in your face, which I love. It does have a natural sheen to it though, which is my favourite finish of foundation. And I meant to say excuse the dark, dreary, old background, but I wanted to show you how it looks in natural light as I'm applying it, because later on when I come back to finish off the review, it will of course be in artificial light because it will be late. But I'm just going to zoom in now so you can see this up close. So you can see there are some blemishes coming through. I've said a million times before, I don't rely on my foundation for concealer though. I think it's really lovely and skin-like. Look how dark I am under my eyes, ignore that. But yeah, I just think it gives a really lovely natural finish, and it's my favourite kind of finish as well. Okay, so here you can see how much brighter everything looks when my stupid dark under eye circles are concealed, and it is this wonderful stuff, which is the Maybelline Fit Me Concealer. I love that stuff. It just is my favourite under eye concealer at the moment. And I used a tiny bit of the Rimmel Lasting Finish Concealer just on 1, 2, 3 blemishes, and then either side of my nose just to counteract any redness. And I just think it gives such a lovely radiant coverage, which is what you want. And here's the finished product with a little bit more slap on top. I did powder. This is the kind of foundation though that if you're very dry and you don't like the feel of powders on your face, you could skip it because it does contain powders. It contains mica, talc and another mineral powder, so that could be enough for the people who are on the much drier side of the spectrum. I did use my Catrice Prime and Fine mattifying powder on the nose area particularly, so on the nose, either side of my nose and on my chin, and then kind of where I, what's the word I'm looking for? Contour, that's it. And then I either mixed in a little bit or used this by itself. This is the Hourglass Diffused Light Ambient Lighting Powder. And I use this on, say, anywhere that's a little bit drier and anywhere where I want a little bit more highlighting, but subtle highlighting. So tops of the cheekbones, center of my nose and forehead. So that's kind of what I do. Sometimes though I'll just skip powder altogether on the forehead if I'm a little bit more on the dry side, but other than that, that's all I do. I didn't put on blusher. I do have contour on though, just so you'd have a bit more of an idea of how it really looks without loads of other stuff. I was going to say crap, a load of other products on top of it. So yeah, I'm going to wear this for like 7-8 hours, come back, we'll see how it looks later on tonight, and yeah, like I said, give you my final thoughts. So there you go. Okay guys, so it is 8 o'clock, if you can see that there, or 20:02. I always go by the 24-hour clock. But yeah, so I have worn this now for 8 hours. It was 12 o'clock when I put this on, and I told you I was going to mention how long it was on at the intro. It was already on for 5 hours when I filmed that intro, so it wasn't looking too bad then. And feedback I've gotten off you in the past was that sometimes these videos can be washed out, so hopefully this lighting isn't so bright that you can't see the skin properly. So this is the foundation on for 8 hours straight. So I spent a lot of the day driving around in the car today, so that was kind of sweaty, I suppose, and because it was very, very sunny coming into the car, and I have no aircon. And also when I was cooking earlier on, I had a few blasts of heat from the oven as well, so it's held up pretty well considering all that stuff. I'm going to zoom in and just show you quickly how it looks. So you can see it is still quite, it is very shiny around the nose, but that's where I would get my most shiniest, and on the actual tip of the nose. Forehead is okay, it's actually not too shiny there at all, but my forehead tends to get quite dry. And this is where I tend to lose my makeup throughout the day, because I do touch my chin a lot throughout the day. I go like this a lot, and it's the first place where the makeup will disappear. But besides that, like, there's no big patches gone or anything like that. Like, I know it is very shiny around the nose, but compared to other foundations, I still prefer the look of this after so long on. So here it is a little less zoomed in, and you can see definitely shine around the nose area, but it isn't too like diabolical everywhere else. So yeah, there you go. That's an indication of how this foundation lasts. So I get an oily T-zone. Well, no, oily T-zone no, because my forehead is dry. When I was younger I did. Nose area, I get very oily on my nose, and my computer's being very loud there, sorry. And around my nose here I get oily. I can get a little bit shiny on my chin, that's probably more from touching it than anything else. And then the rest of it is just normal to dry, so you can see it's grand on those areas and on my forehead. Then in regards to skin types, I think pretty much any skin type can use it. Like, if you're on the extreme side of oily to the point where your actual nose slides off your face, I mean, you probably won't want to go with anything with oil in it. And if you are like ridiculously dry, you might want to go with something that doesn't contain powders. Saying that, this doesn't cling to any of my dry areas. I have, well, maybe I just don't have any dry enough patches at the moment, I don't know. I have seen a few other bloggers saying that it can cling a little bit to their dry patches, so I don't know, it's definitely worth your while to check out a few other reviews anyhow. What else did I want to say? And I do like how it doesn't settle into lines as well, you know, it doesn't migrate into any of your fine lines or like more pronounced lines as the day goes on, which can happen with usually more thicker foundations. But anyhow, I do usually always wear this with the primer, particularly around the nose area, and it's usually the No.7 Airbrush Away Primer as well, which came out before the foundation. This is in a new package now at the moment, so it doesn't look like this, but I think it's the same thing essentially, and it works really, really well with that. I've used it with other primers though. I've used it with my Chanel LeBlanc. I've used it with Natural Radiance MAC. I've used it with, what else have I used it with? Baby Skin by Maybelline and Face Finity by Max Factor. I tend not to use it with anything too overly radiant or luminous, because there's enough luminosity in the actual foundation itself. And I do tend to powder maybe once or twice throughout the day is usually enough. You saw at like the 5-hour mark it wasn't too bad. It was more kind of after I was making my dinner and stuff like that and I needed to powder. So that's my review on this week eye for now. Where is it? Here it is. And I'm just a really, really big fan of this. So yeah, available in Boots, where you get it in Ireland and the UK, and I'm not sure where you get it in the US, but I'm sure you should be able to find that out fairly quickly online. So thanks a million for watching, guys, as always, and I'll just see you all in my next video. Slán.